The courtroom was full, but no one dared to speak. The air was heavy, and even the sound of shoes on the floor echoed too loud. Reporters sat in the back, their eyes fixed on the front. People whispered, but only when they were sure no one could hear. Bradley Knox walked in with a wide smile. He wore a dark blue suit that cost more than most people made in a year. His gold watch flashed under the lights. His hair was perfect, his shoes shiny, and his face proud. He looked like a man who believed nothing could touch him. He sat down at the defendant's table, leaned back in his chair, and smiled like he already knew he would win. His lawyer, a slim man in glasses, looked nervous. "Sir, please take this seriously." "This judge?" Bradley laughed. "The judge? A black woman? Are you serious?" The lawyer said nothing. Bradley leaned closer and whispered just loud enough for the people nearby to hear. "This'll be easy. She's probably just here to look strong. But we both know who really runs things." A few heads turned. One woman looked at him in shock. A man shook his head and looked away. But Bradley didn't care. He was rich, powerful, and always in control. Then the door behind the bench opened. Judge Maya Carter stepped into the courtroom. She walked slowly, with calm steps, dressed in black robes. Her face showed no emotion. She had deep brown eyes, quiet strength, and a presence that made people sit straighter without thinking. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She sat at the bench, looked around the room, then said in a soft but clear voice, "Court is now in session." Bradley didn't stand right away. He waited an extra second, just enough to make a point. Maya noticed. She didn't react. She simply said, "Mr. Knox, please show respect to this court." Bradley smirked and stood slowly. "Of course, Your Honor," he said, dragging the words. She nodded once, then turned to the lawyers. "Is the prosecution ready?" "Yes, Your Honor," the prosecutor said, standing up. "And the defense?" Bradley's lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor." Maya nodded again. "Then let's begin." As the prosecutor started talking, Maya listened carefully. Her eyes didn't blink much. She watched everything, every face, every reaction. She took notes silently while the prosecutor explained the charges. Bradley was accused of fraud, embezzlement, and destroying evidence. Millions of dollars were missing. Small businesses had collapsed because of his actions. Families had lost their homes, their savings, and their hope. But Bradley didn't look worried. He whispered again, "This is all drama, no real proof." Maya looked up. She stared at him for a moment. He stopped smiling. Then she turned to the prosecutor. "Please bring forward the first witness." A man came to the stand. He looked nervous. He was an accountant, one who used to work for Bradley's company. His hands shook slightly. Maya leaned forward. "Please state your name and speak clearly." He nodded. "My name is Victor James." The prosecutor began the questions. Victor explained how he was told to hide numbers, delete records, and create fake reports. He tried to say no, but people above him made threats. He was told to play along or disappear. Bradley laughed quietly. "Lies," he whispered. Maya said, "Mr. Knox, if you speak again without permission, I will hold you in contempt." His smile faded. Victor continued. He told the court how he finally quit, but lived in fear after that. He said others wanted to come forward, but were too scared. Maya asked, "Did you bring any proof with you today?" Victor nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. Emails, files, and time logs. I gave them to the prosecution this morning." Maya turned to the prosecutor. "Please submit those to the court." The courtroom was silent. Everyone leaned forward. Even the reporters stopped typing for a moment. They could feel something was happening, something big. Bradley shifted in his seat. For the first time, he looked less sure of himself. Maya studied the documents quietly, turning each page slowly. She said nothing, but the look in her eyes changed. Her face was still calm, but now it held something else: focus, strength, and quiet anger. She looked up and stared at Bradley. He looked away. After a few moments, Maya closed the file. "This court will take a short break. We will continue after 10 minutes. She stood and walked out. Bradley leaned to his lawyer. She's just trying to act tough. But the lawyer looked pale. Sir, this isn't going how we planned. Bradley didn't reply. Outside, the people who had been silent were now whispering loudly. The judge hadn't said much, but everyone in that courtroom felt it. This wasn't going to be easy, and Judge Maya Carter was no one's puppet. The courtroom was still on break, but the noise in the hallway had grown. Reporters talked quickly into phones. People who had come to watch whispered about the judge. They weren't just talking about the case now. They were talking about her. Did you see her face when she looked at him? She didn't raise her voice, but it felt like thunder. Judge Carter. She's different. Inside a small judge's room, Maya Carter stood by the window looking out. She wasn't just thinking about the case. Her mind had gone back, years back, to a time when she was not wearing the robe. She saw her younger self, sitting in a cold police station, afraid and alone. Back then, she had been a law student, smart, hopeful, and full of dreams. One evening, she was walking home from the library when the police stopped her. They said she fit the description. She had done nothing wrong. But they handcuffed her anyway, threw her into the back of a car, and drove off without explanation. They kept her there for hours. No apology. No one listened. That night changed her. She didn't stop studying law. No, she studied harder. She promised herself she would never forget that feeling. The feeling of being powerless. And now, years later, she was the one behind the bench. She had the power to make sure justice was not just a word people said, but something they could feel. She took a deep breath and turned back to the case file. Meanwhile, Bradley Knox sat alone at the defense table, arms crossed, eyes cold. The break had made him restless. His phone had been taken at the courtroom door, so he couldn't scroll through messages or call his people. But what bothered him more was the way the courtroom had changed. That judge wasn't afraid of him, not even a little. She's just acting, he told himself. Everyone folds eventually. His lawyer returned, holding some fresh documents. We might have a problem. Bradley raised an eyebrow. Another one? Yes, the lawyer whispered. The files from the witness. They match with your old emails. Bradley sat up. That's impossible. I deleted everything. The lawyer looked even more worried. Maybe you did, but someone saved them. And the judge, she noticed. Bradley clenched his jaw. Then do your job. Shut it down. Delay it. Blame someone else. The lawyer didn't answer. 10 minutes passed. The bailiff called out, "All rise. Court is now back in session." Everyone stood as Judge Maya Carter entered again. Her face showed no sign of the flashbacks that had filled her mind just minutes ago. She looked calm, focused. "You may be seated." The courtroom sat. Maya spoke. "We will now continue with the testimony of Mr. Victor James." Victor returned to the stand. He looked a bit stronger now. He had shared the truth, and the judge had listened. The defense lawyer stood up to cross-examine. "Mr. James, how can the court trust that you're not just a bitter ex-employee?" Victor blinked. "Because I'd brought proof." "Yes, but this could have been made up later." Before he could finish, Maya raised her hand. "Do you have any evidence that the files are fake?" The lawyer paused. "Not yet, Your Honor." "Then don't ask questions based on guesses," Maya said sharply. The room went quiet again. Bradley leaned toward his lawyer, whispering with anger, "You're letting her run the show." The lawyer whispered back, "She's the judge. She is the show." For the next hour, more witnesses were called. A single mom who had lost her savings after investing in Bradley's fake company. A young man who lost his job when the company suddenly shut down. An elderly man who was promised his retirement funds were safe, but now had nothing. Each story cut through the courtroom like a knife. Maya listened to every word. Her pen moved slowly, making notes. But something else was happening too. The people in the courtroom, people who had come just to watch, were now leaning forward. They were not bored. They were angry. They were hurting. These were not just numbers and papers. These were lives. And the man who sat at the defense table had taken so much without care. Finally, as the last witness stepped down, Maya looked up and said, "Court will continue tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. sharp." The gavel hit once. People stood and began to leave. But the feeling in the room didn't leave. It stayed. Outside the courtroom, a young woman reporter spoke to her camera. This trial has taken a sharp turn. Judge Maya Carter, once seen as quiet and soft-spoken, is now showing a powerful side that no one expected. The public is watching closely. And inside the judge's chambers, Maya sat again in silence. She knew this case was more than just law. It was about power, about truth, and about reminding men like Bradley Knox that sometimes the people they mock are the ones who will bring them down. And the fire inside her, it wasn't just burning, it was ready. Bradley Knox was used to winning, not just in business, in life. He believed the rules were made for weak people, for people who didn't know how to bend them or break them. But now, for the first time in years, he was nervous. He didn't show it. On the outside, he was the same calm, cold, and arrogant. But inside, something didn't feel right. The courtroom felt like a trap. The judge didn't act like other judges. She didn't smile at him. She didn't seem scared of his money or his name. She didn't even blink when his lawyer tried to twist the truth. Bradley sat at the defense table, pretending to read over papers. But his eyes kept moving back to Judge Maya Carter. Who was she really? He picked up a pen and started writing something on a sticky note for his lawyer. Dig into her background. I want everything. His lawyer saw the note, nodded quietly, and slipped the paper into his folder. Across the room, Maya sat quietly behind her bench, but she wasn't still inside. She could feel the pressure rising. She knew men like Bradley, smooth on the outside, full of poison inside. People like him didn't just lie, they lived inside lies. And now she had to uncover the full truth, not just for the court, but for everyone watching. Back in her chambers the night before, she had stayed up late reading files. Dozens of them. Financial records, internal emails, witness statements. Each one pointed to a game much bigger than just one rich man cheating a few people. It was a web. Fake companies, hidden bank accounts, silent partners. Some of them big names, too big. And it all led back to Bradley Knox. She had to be smart, careful. If she moved too fast, it might fall apart. If she moved too slow, he might escape again. As court began the next day, the courtroom was packed. More reporters, more curious watchers. Even a few known business leaders sat in the back, trying not to be seen. Maya entered the room with calm steps, but her eyes scanned everything. She could feel the tension like thick air. Court is now in session. Bradley's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we would like to call our next witness, a financial advisor named Daniel Price. Daniel walked in, clean suit, sharp face. He smiled too much. Maya had seen that type before. Paid to speak, paid to protect. The lawyer asked, Mr. Price, how long have you worked with Mr. Knox? About 5 years, he replied. And during those years, did you ever see him do anything illegal? No, never. Maya tilted her head. Are you aware that 3 of your emails were submitted into evidence yesterday? Daniel froze for a second. The courtroom held its breath. Maya continued. Emails where you warned Mr. Knox that his fake companies would collapse. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, those emails, they were taken out of context. She leaned forward. Then explained the context where you wrote, and I quote, we need to clean this up or someone's going to jail. Probably not you though. Whispers broke out. The lawyer objected. Your Honor. Overruled, Maya said sharply. Daniel looked pale. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Maya asked. Her voice was calm, but sharp like a knife. Daniel looked down. It was just talk, stress, nothing more. Maya nodded slowly, then turned to the lawyer. You may continue. But the damage was done. Daniel's words had lost weight. People in the gallery could see it now. Bradley was surrounded by lies, and those lies were starting to break. Bradley leaned over to his lawyer again. We need to shut this down. Mistrial. Anything. His lawyer whispered back, she's good. Too good. She's not scared of you. For the first time, Bradley felt something he hadn't felt in years. powerless. After the witness was excused, Maya called for a short break. She returned to her chambers and closed the door. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, from energy. She had just cracked the first wall in Bradley's defense, but she knew more walls were coming. Bigger ones. Walls made of money, connections, and silence. She sat down and pulled out a sealed file. Inside it were documents no one had seen yet. Names. Transactions. Secrets. She wasn't ready to reveal them, not yet. But she would, when the time was right, because this wasn't just a case anymore. It was a battle, and the court was her battlefield. Back in the courtroom, the crowd whispered louder. She caught that guy lying. That judge is smart. She's going to destroy him. Bradley sat in silence, eyes fixed on the judge's chair. He had mocked her. Now he feared her. But it was only the beginning, because Judge Maya Carter wasn't just going to give a verdict. She was going to deliver a message. Bradley Knox didn't sleep much that night. He walked around his big office like a caged lion. His hands stayed in fists. His mouth stayed shut. But his mind raced fast. Things were going wrong. Very wrong. He thought the trial would be quick. He thought the judge would be easy to handle. Just another name on a list. Just another person who would bow to his power. But Judge Maya Carter wasn't like the others. She was calm, but not soft. Quiet, but strong. And worst of all, she was smart. Too smart. Bradley's assistant came into the office and said quietly, "There's a problem." He turned. "What now?" "They're talking, sir. People. Online. In the media. Even inside the company." "About what?" "About her. The judge. They think she has something. Something big. And we lost control of Daniel. He's gone silent." Bradley's jaw tightened. "Then we fix it. We control the story." But deep down, he knew something had changed. His lies were slipping. His world was cracking. The next day in court, Maya walked in with her usual grace. She wore a dark suit and kept her expression calm. But inside, she felt the storm rising. She had seen the whispers online too. People were watching. People were hoping. They wanted justice. As the court session began, Maya looked directly at Bradley. "Mr. Knox," she said slowly, "before we continue with witness testimonies, the court has received new documents. Documents that will be added into evidence." Bradley's eyes narrowed. "What documents?" his lawyer asked. Maya picked up a folder. She didn't smile. Bank records, business licenses, offshore accounts, all linked to Mr. Knox, and all verified. The room went quiet, dead quiet. Bradley's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His lawyer stood up quickly. "Your Honor, we were not given notice of these records." "You'll have time to review them," Maya replied sharply. "But this court will see the truth." Bradley leaned back, eyes wide. He looked like he had seen a ghost, because he knew what was inside that folder. Secrets. Secrets he buried years ago. Secrets he thought were gone forever. But secrets don't stay buried, especially not when someone like Maya Carter starts digging. One by one, the documents were shown on the courtroom screen. $6.2 million transferred to an island bank. A shell company with no employees but thousands in monthly payments. A fake business address tied to a real government contract. The jury watched in silence. The gallery whispered. The press took notes like fire. Bradley's lawyer tried to speak. "This is a mistake. This doesn't prove fraud." Maya turned to him and asked, "Would you like to call a witness to explain it?" The lawyer hesitated. "Not at this moment." Maya nodded. "Then the court will continue." Bradley felt sweat on his back. Cold, unwanted sweat. He looked around and noticed something else. No one was looking at him with fear anymore. Now, they looked at him with something else. Disgust. He wasn't the untouchable CEO now. He was a man with dirty hands, standing in front of a judge who could see right through him. In the back of the courtroom, an old man watched carefully. He had gray hair and wore a simple coat. No one paid him much attention, but he watched everything. He watched Maya, and he smiled. Later that evening, after court ended, Maya sat alone in her chambers. The room was quiet, but her heart still beat hard. She looked at the folder again and thought about everything she had seen. It wasn't just about Bradley anymore. It was about everyone like him. The ones who rise by stepping on others. The ones who think money hides every crime. The ones who laugh in courtrooms and mock judges. This was her moment to show them they were wrong. Suddenly, there was a knock. She opened the door and found her clerk standing there, holding an envelope. "What's this?" Maya asked. "It was delivered anonymously," the clerk said. Maya took it, opened it slowly, and pulled out a single paper. A name. A name she recognized. Someone close to Bradley. Someone powerful. And under the name, one sentence. "He's not the only one." Maya stared at the paper. The case had just gotten bigger. And the silence in court today? It was only the beginning of a louder storm. The courtroom was packed. Every seat taken. Every eye focused on the front. People had seen the headlines. Judge exposes shocking secrets of billionaire CEO. Trial of the year. Bradley Knox in trouble. The media had finally caught on. And now, everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Judge Maya Carter walked in slowly, her robe flowing behind her. She looked calm, but inside, her mind was sharp like a blade. She had read the note. The one with the name. The warning. He's not the only one. There were more snakes in the grass. But today, her focus was on one. The biggest one. Bradley Knox sat at the defense table, shoulders stiff, lips tight. He didn't look proud anymore. No cocky smile. No jokes under his breath. His face was pale. He looked like a man wearing a mask. And that mask was about to fall. "Court is now in session," Maya said. "We'll continue with witness testimony." Her voice was calm, but cold. The prosecutor stood and called the next witness. A woman walked in, maybe in her mid-30s. She wore a plain blue blouse, her hands shaking just slightly. She was nervous, but she stood tall. "State your name for the record," the prosecutor said. "Rebecca Lang," she replied. "And your connection to the defendant?" "I was his assistant for 5 years." A ripple moved through the room. Bradley's head turned sharply. His jaw clenched. He hadn't expected her. Rebecca took a deep breath. "I used to believe in him," she said softly. "I thought he was brilliant. Tough, but fair. But then, I started noticing things." "What things?" asked the prosecutor. "Money being moved to strange accounts. Meetings behind closed doors. Contracts going to fake companies. And then, I found something I wasn't supposed to see." "What was it?" She looked at Maya, then back at the crowd. "A payment. A large one. Made to someone in a government office. To win a contract." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Judge Maya leaned forward slightly. Her eyes locked on Rebecca's. "Do you have proof of this payment?" she asked. Rebecca nodded and pulled out a flash drive. "Everything is here. Emails, documents, even voice recordings. I saved them because I was scared, but I knew one day this would come out." Bradley jumped up from his chair. "She's lying," he shouted. "She was fired. She's angry. You can't believe this." Maya didn't flinch. "Mr. Knox, sit down. You'll get your chance to respond." His lawyer pulled him down gently, whispering in his ear. Rebecca handed over the flash drive. The files were loaded on the screen. Everyone watched. An email from Bradley to a contact. "Make sure the payment is clean. I don't want this coming back to me." Another email. "Use the shell company. No direct link to Knox Industries." Then the voice recording. Bradley's voice, clear as day. "If the judge gives us trouble, we buy her out. Everyone has a price." The room went completely silent. No one moved. Even the reporters stopped typing. Judge Maya didn't blink. Her face remained calm. But inside, her heart burned. Not with anger, with purpose. She had waited for this. Proof. Truth. Now the world could hear it too. "Is that your voice, Mr. Knox?" Maya asked slowly. Bradley didn't answer. "Answer the question." His lawyer stood up quickly. "Your Honor, we request a recess." Denied. Maya said. Mr. Knox? He swallowed hard. It's edited. Fake, AI or something. Maya raised one eyebrow. We'll let the forensic experts decide that. For now, it stays in evidence. The jury members were watching Bradley closely now. His fake smile was gone. His charm didn't work anymore. All they could see was a man caught in his own lies. And then came the final blow. Rebecca turned to the judge. There's more. I gave the rest to someone I trust, in case anything happens to me. Maya nodded slowly. This court thanks you for your bravery, Ms. Lang. Rebecca stepped down. Her hands were still shaking, but her head was high. Maya looked at the clock, then back at Bradley. This court will now enter a short recess. We will return in 30 minutes. She banged the gavel. Everyone stood. As the courtroom emptied, whispers filled the air. The mask fell today. He's finished. That judge, she's different. In the hallway, Maya stood near the window alone for a moment. The sun was setting, casting golden light on her face. She had done what many said couldn't be done. She had peeled back the mask of power, of pride, of lies. But something still bothered her. That note. He's not the only one. There were more battles to come. And she would be ready. The next morning, the courtroom was even more crowded than before. Outside, people were standing in long lines, hoping to get a seat. Journalists had set up cameras everywhere. Social media was filled with posts, videos, and hashtags about the trial. Everyone was talking about one person now, not the billionaire, but the black female judge who didn't back down. Judge Maya Carter walked into the courtroom, calm as always. But deep inside, she knew this day was important, not just for the case, but for justice itself. She sat down, gave a small nod, and said, "Court is now in session." The jurors entered. They looked serious, focused. Some looked tired. They had seen the emails, the recordings, the hidden deals. They had listened carefully to every witness. Bradley Knox sat at the defense table. He looked like a different man now, nervous, pale, smaller. The charm, the jokes, the pride, it was all gone. His lawyer stood and made a final attempt to defend him. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began. "Yes, Mr. Knox is a powerful man, but that doesn't make him guilty. Emails can be fake. Voices can be edited. This is a witch hunt, a way to take down a rich man who made enemies." He paused, then added, "Ask yourselves, where is the real proof?" Some jurors looked down. Others remained still. Then it was the prosecutor's turn. She stood slowly and said, "You've seen the emails. Heard his voice. You saw how scared Rebecca was. She risked everything to speak the truth." She walked closer to the jury. "This isn't just about a powerful man lying. It's about trust. Mr. Knox used his power to silence people, hide the truth, and mock the very system that protects us all." Then she turned to the judge and nodded. "We rest our case." The room went silent. Judge Maya looked at the jury. "You now have the responsibility to deliver justice. Take your time. Think carefully. This court will wait for your decision." The jury stood and walked out. Now the courtroom felt cold. Everyone waited. Bradley stared at the table, not speaking. His lawyer whispered to him, but he didn't respond. It was like he knew what was coming. Across the room, Rebecca sat with her head down, holding her phone tightly. She was scared, but she was proud. She had done the right thing. Judge Maya remained calm, her eyes watching the door where the jury had left. She had handled many tough cases, but this one felt different. It had tested her strength, her patience, her heart. She thought about everything Bradley had said. "You don't belong in that seat. You got lucky. Everyone has a price." He thought her silence meant weakness, but he had no idea what kind of fire lived inside her. An hour passed, then another. Finally, the door opened. The jury returned. Everyone stood. Judge Maya looked at the foreperson. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The man nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." A folded paper was handed to the bailiff. He gave it to Maya. She opened it slowly, then read it out loud. "In the matter of fraud, bribery, and corruption, we, the jury, find the defendant, Bradley Knox, Guilty on all counts. The room exploded with gasps. Some people cried, others clapped quietly. Bradley's face turned red. He stood up fast. No, this is wrong. I built this city. I made jobs. I gave money to charity. Maya raised her hand. Mr. Knox, sit down. He didn't. I want a new trial. This was rigged. You paid me. That's what this is about. The bailiff moved closer. Judge Maya stood. Her voice was steady, strong, unshaken. This court has heard the evidence. This court has seen the truth, and justice has spoken. She looked straight at him. You once asked if I knew who you were. Now the world knows who you are. Bradley froze. Everyone was silent again. The bailiff placed a hand on his arm. This time, he didn't fight. He was led away, step by step. And just like that, the most powerful man in the city became just another criminal. Judge Maya sat down again. The courtroom slowly emptied. But people didn't leave in silence. They left in awe. They had watched a woman stand tall against money, pride, and pressure. And win. Later that evening, Maya walked out the courthouse door. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold. Reporters waited, but she walked past them quietly. She wasn't doing this for fame. She was doing it for justice. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You did well, but you've made enemies. Be ready. She stared at the message, then deleted it. She was always ready. But for now, she had one last part to complete. The courtroom was silent again. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. It wasn't about fear. It was about respect. Everyone had returned for one reason: the sentencing. Bradley Knox, the once powerful CEO, now stood in handcuffs, wearing a plain gray prison uniform. He didn't look like the man who had laughed in court. His eyes were empty. His voice was gone. The fall had been too hard. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but the world was watching through live news updates. Millions waited to hear Judge Maya Carter's decision. What would she say? What punishment would she give? Maya walked into the courtroom, holding a small file in her hands. Her black robe moved gently as she stepped up to the judge's bench. She looked around the room. Then she looked at Bradley. Mr. Knox, she began, you had everything. Wealth, power, influence, but you used it to hurt people, to silence them, to cheat the system. Bradley didn't look up. She continued. You lied in court. You insulted witnesses. You mocked justice. And worst of all, you thought you were untouchable. The room stayed quiet, every word heavy like thunder. You mocked me, she said, her voice calm but sharp. Not because of anything I said or did, but because of who I am. A black woman in a seat you thought I didn't deserve. She paused. But I didn't come here to talk about myself. This isn't about me. This is about every single person who believed in the law. Every person who thought no one would listen to them. Every young girl who thought her voice didn't matter. Bradley shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. You thought this courtroom was your playground. You thought money would protect you. But justice doesn't wear a price tag. Gasps spread through the audience. A few people wiped their tears. Others nodded slowly, taking in every word. Maya leaned forward slightly. You said everyone has a price. But today, I give you something no price can remove: the truth. She opened the file. For your crimes, fraud, bribery, abuse of power, witness threats, and obstruction of justice, this court sentences you to 30 years in federal prison. No early release, no special treatment. You will serve your time like every other citizen. Bradley finally looked up, eyes wide in shock. 30 years, he whispered. Judge Maya didn't blink. Yes. And not a day less. Bradley stood up. You can't do this. You don't know who I am. You don't understand the friends I have. Maya looked at him one last time. You're right. I don't care who you were. I care about what you did. And now, you're just another name in a file, no different than anyone else. The bailiff walked toward him. Take him away, Maya said. As they let him out, Bradley turned to the audience. No one clapped. No one cheered. They just watched him leave with the same quiet respect they had for the judge. When he was gone, Maya stood. "I hope today shows one thing clearly," she said, her voice firm and full of meaning. "The law is not a weapon for the rich. It is a shield for the weak." The whole courtroom stood, every single person. And then, it happened. They clapped. Loud, long, real. They weren't cheering a sentence. They were cheering truth, courage, justice. Outside, news anchors were already reporting. Judge Mayakata delivers the boldest sentencing in corporate crime history. Her words will be studied in law schools for years. This isn't just a verdict. This is a turning point. Later that night, Maya returned home. She took off her robe, poured herself a glass of water, and sat on her old sofa. She looked tired, but peaceful. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mentor, an old retired judge. "Today you didn't just change a courtroom. You changed a country." Maya smiled, just a little. Then she looked out the window. The city lights were glowing. Somewhere out there, a little girl was watching. A girl who looked like her. A girl who might now believe that one day, she too could sit in that judge's chair. And no one would be able to say she didn't belong.